if you thought the fight between South Africa or the war of words between South Africa and the US is coming to an end anytime soon, you're probably wrong. And this is why I'm saying you're wrong. So the US has sent back the South Africa's ambassador to US back home. Like, guy, we are done with you, go back home. Ebrahim Rasool, who has been the envoy in the US from South Africa, has been expelled back home. So in a webinar that was organized by South Africa, the 62-year-old Ebrahim Rasool, who's a very seasoned politician, by the way, he was speaking about the policies of President Donald Trump and the implications those policies will have in Africa. So his remarks, which were well prepared, according to many, were on the new government in the US, were delivered in a thoughtful and very measured, and they had no hint of that was going to cause trouble. But then, after that, immediately after he gave his remarks, that happened, and he was told, you know what, we're expelling you back home. So the talk was coming after weeks of pressure on South Africa from Washington over the issue of land laws that were introduced in South Africa. And this has resulted in the US cutting off some funding for South Africa, or is it all of the funding? And this has been pushed by both Trump and Elon Musk. South Africa, in exchange, said the only aid we get from from the US, actually, is just fund some health program under the HIV programs. But besides that, it was very small that we can stay without. And they actually gave a condition of, if you do not want to give us fund, then we can stop exporting our minerals to you. So it's something that's ongoing and seems it's building up slowly. So the US government has been accusing South Africa that Africa white minority was being unfairly targeted in this new law. And an allegation actually was refuted by the government of South Africa. They said, we're not discriminating anyone. We're using law that has been passed by parliament, which has everyone. So Rasool's view, in Rasool's view now, the envoy that was expelled, he said that he thought President Trump was mobilizing a supremacism and trying to project white victimhood as a dog whistle, as the white population faced becoming a minority in the US. So these are the comments that resulted in the sharply divided opinions, both locally and internationally, over whether he was walking on a fine line of diplomacy or he was just giving his honest opinion, and assessment. So being honest, from some people, they feel that he might have crossed what they call a line, because diplomacy, again, is usually very, sometimes you have to be you either go hard or you go soft. You just know how to balance. But some say that he crossed a line that an ambassador should not cross. So Ebrahim Rasool is a veteran anti-apartheid hero himself. So he was part of the struggle. And as a victim of inequalities of the racist system of government back in the day in South Africa, he's always been unlikely to mince his words when it comes to assessing the new administration under Trump. His message was more diplomatic and more relaxed. Like, he wasn't even worried after the expelling message came out. So soon after it was announced at the weekend that he was going to be expelled from the US, Rasool wrote that he and his family were all packed up and looking forward to returning to South Africa, and said he was leaving the US with no regrets. I love it when Africans are able to stand against supremacy, white supremacy especially, because I feel these are decisions that were made because someone spoke their honest opinion. I mean, Trump always has, even Musk, he has opinions, he's speaking about South Africa, but I don't think that warranted him sending an envoy away because he said that he feels it's a supremacy battle that's going on. But anyway, the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was unequivocal in his response, saying that Rasool was no longer welcome in the US because he was race-baiting politician who hates America and hates Trump. Very interesting for the world, right? Like, is everything just about either loving or hating Trump? I don't think so. And some things are just being logical. So South Africa's president, of course, Cyril Ramaphosa's office said the US decision to expel Rasool was regrettable. And as president himself, he defended that the great deal of progress the ambassador had been making prior to his expulsion. So this is actually, he says this expulsion of Rasool is a hiccup. that comes when we were working on straightening out. And he says that repeating a stance aimed at cooling temperatures, and it's very hard for him at this point now. Why? Maybe they're feeling like he's being targeted because of his skin color. He grew up in South Africa and he was classified as colored during the apartheid season or system. So as a young boy, along with his family, he was forced to leave his home, and which was in the center of the city, and to go live in some far-off countryside. So Rasoo's activism began in 1970s during his school years, and it is argued that the fact that he's a Muslim and the fact that he represented South Africa's country's views on the issue of Palestine, and of course, South Africa has taken US to the ICC, International Criminal Court, against crimes against humanity. So many are saying this decision to expel him was actually based on this issue of Palestine and nothing to do with his views about President Trump, and nothing to do about hate for Trump or even hate for Elon Musk. So those are the real reasons why South Africans, or even most of the critics, feel he was being targeted. So last year, South Africa took Israel to the International Criminal Court. And with that story being key and being covered by everyone, of course, now America feels a bit some type of way. Rasool is a devout Muslim, and he stands, according to him, they say when he represented, he said he stands for the Palestinians' cause of self-determination. So, of course, personally, from where I sit, in my opinion, I feel like no amount of experience or seniority from any South African envoy will be enough to appease the Trump administration. But only, even if they get someone who is very well, who has all the diplomatic characters that we look for, I feel the only way an envoy will work in the US and will make these relations work, that someone has, one, to be completely, he has to completely agree with Trump in all he wants and everything he pushes. So, and this is, of course, due to the land law that was passed and the fact that the South Africa stands with Palestine. So these two issues are key for anyone who takes up that role of the envoy of South Africa to the US. So yeah, that's the story of South Africa, and this conflict between, not even a conflict, this tiff between South Africa and the US keeps building, and we can only watch to see what happens or which direction it takes. But above everything else, we're here for the people, we stand for the African people. And for me, I keep saying, as Africans, we have to stand up for ourselves, because if we don't, no one will. Number two, these supremacists and Westerners need to know Africans have a voice, and we actually know what we want and we know our rights. So for South Africa and Ramaphosa, keep the fights alive, fight for your people. South Africa deserves everything and more, and for its people. Bottom line, it's always for the people. So that's it from South Africa, and we will keep you updated on what happens next. Thank you for watching. Always share your comments in the comment section. Leave a comment about what you think about this and how you actually think this tiff between Elon, Ramaphosa, and Trump will end. We shall see you on the next episodes. The world is fast-paced and sometimes you miss the action. What perspectives do you have? What is the truth? Is the world at war? Join me, Sarah Mwangi, as we make sense of the information overload.